All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order for Polk County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. Commissioner Gordon is excused, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next up is the approval of minutes from September 19th.
Also move.
And I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And West Valley Housing Authority interview, Doug Daly. Please come forward.
I made it. That's farther back last time I was here years ago, so.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for fitting me into your agenda this morning. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So please introduce yourself for the record and with your address, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Douglas Daly and I live on 139 Southwest Birch Street, Dallas, Oregon, 97338. So right across the tracks and up the street. And I was interested in this position. I'm trying to get more involved in the community. I feel like all I do is work mostly, and I live in Dallas, but not involved in much volunteer activities or anything along those lines. And I had went on the committee list, and originally I was there to see if there were any vacancies on the health committee because I worked for the Oregon Health Authority as a compliance specialist. Thought might be interesting to offer healthcare expertise, but I didn't see any vacancies. And I looked at the other ones and I saw that there was one on the housing authority. I thought that could be rewarding and interesting work, since I feel like housing is one of those things that if you have it, you don't often think about it, and a lot of folks struggle to find it. And so it seemed like a worthwhile committee to try to get on. I also think that the dog control committee also, although it sounds like they never meet. So when I talked to Commissioner Gordon, but seemed like a good, the housing authority seemed like the place to be, especially with everything going on in Dallas. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got 6 questions. I'll start out with the first one here and take your time.
Of course.
Describe your volunteer involvement and experience and community activities you have participated in and any leadership roles you have served in those activities.
My previous volunteer experience, of course, a lot of volunteer experience with county political parties when I lived on the coast in Reedsport. But that aside, I was on the library committee in Reedsport for the Douglas County Library, where we helped raise funds for the library. Funding for the library is also always a struggle. I was a precinct committee person for a couple of different terms. That's pretty low hanging fruit, but still, valuable work. But aside from that, it's kind of shameful to say, but I don't have a ton of volunteer experience at the city level, the county level, which is why I thought this would be a great opportunity to, get more experience, really get your foot in there, help out your community. But I will say, unfortunately, it's shameful, but I don't have a ton of volunteer experience, but I have been on volunteer committees before. So.
What special skills or talents would you bring to a new commissioner or as a new commissioner to the Housing Authority Board?
I would bring critical thinking skills, active listening skills, open-mindedness, the ability to, listen to folks' opinions, take that into account, try to make, educated, thoughtful decisions. Housing is one of those things. It's such a complex topic because, especially in Dallas, where you have tons of new housing communities going up. In fact, my wife and I were out walking the other day, and we're up walking on Birch Street, and we found one is being built. So I would say, when you having worked for the Oregon Health Authority, for example, you have to be organized. I probably, thousands of emails, on a regular basis. So you have to be organized. I feel like I have pretty good organizational skills, ability to, manage different projects. And I think that could be, could be helpful to the committee, and definitely interested in being involved. So I saw there were a few vacancies.
What do you see as the role of the Housing Authority Board in relation to the West Valley Housing Authority staff and management? So what do you think that interaction is between that board, the position you're applying for, and the staff and management? And then additionally, in relation to Polk County and this Board of Commissioners?
I feel like it is to take the sum of all the parts from your staff, county level. It's to take all the different parts. I mean, take all different parts, take all the information that the staff gives you, everyone gives you, and then you try to take all that information and make the best decisions possible. Polk County's growing, adding a lot of housing to it, but a lot of the housing is new housing. And so it seems to be a challenge to find affordable housing options for folks, especially folks who are transitioning, because if you're going from questionable housing living situation to trying to get into a permanent housing situation, that is expensive and not always easy. You've got, first month, last month, security. I mean, it costs $1,000. My wife and I moved back to Dallas from Salem. It cost us close to $4,000. Luckily, we had it in the bank, so it wasn't a big deal. And we were getting married at the same time. So we were blessed to support a family plus enough in savings. But I think with the Housing Authority, you take the recommendations to your staff, you take all the supporting facts, and then you just try to make the best decisions possible. Really, it's all you can do. I mean, you really can't make decisions unless you know all the facts.
Since this is kind of a long question, so feel free
Okay.
to ask me to read
Go
it,
ahead.
whatever. But since the Housing Authority has a public mission, you will be expected to represent the citizens of your community in the policy decisions that you participate in making. Are you willing to expand your personal perspective to include those of the greater community as best you can? And how would you make sure that you represent that greater community interest in the decisions you make?
I think it's really easy to fall into a one or the other mindset, especially with social media, as I'm sure we've all seen with the potential new housing community, micro communities being built. But I think you have to set aside personal bias, set aside, I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, set all that aside. And you have to take into account what is best for the overall community as a whole. It's easy to sometimes say, oh, man, my bleeding heart really just wants to go this way. But unfortunately, that's not necessarily the way you can do it. You have to look at it with, you almost have to look at it with just clean slate and not let not let outside groups necessarily influence your decision making, because at the end of the day, you are beholden to the county, and you're beholden to people in all the county, all the citizens of the entire county. You're the one that that you have to represent. So I think you just have to put personal bias aside and kind of try to filter out the noise from the echo chamber and make the best decision you can. So, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of hate mail. A lot of people are like, oh, why are you approving this? Why are you not approving this? So I'm sure the hate mail comes in pretty heavy sometimes, depending on what's going on, especially with what is currently going on in Dallas with the micro communities. So.
Okay. Good. A primary tenet of our agency's mission is to provide safe, decent, and affordable housing opportunities for community citizens with special needs, such as low-income families and elderly or disabled individuals. How best do you envision the Housing Authority using its assets, dollars, and personnel to provide increased housing opportunities for citizens of this community? What do you see as other unmet housing needs of the community that the housing authority should consider as a priority for its resources.
Thank you. Dallas is in a unique situation, Polk County in general, and the greater Dallas area, and that Dallas area, and that there is always seems to be building going on with new home developments, but those new home developments always seem to be new housing. I could be wrong. All those new ones that were built out by the old drive-in, I get the feeling that those were probably not necessarily for low-income folks or folks with disabilities or folks with special needs. Those are probably for folks who are looking to buy a brand new house to move to Dallas to live in, or looking to buy a home for the first time. But I think Dallas and I think Polk County has done a pretty good job, it sounds like, from what I was reading, with making an effort to have to develop housing communities where they have like updated HVAC, air conditioning, things like that, typically for folks who are looking to get into permanent housing. I don't know if it's transitional housing, but to get into permanent housing. So I think what you would do is you have to look at, maybe there's some place there's zoned industrial. You might be able to zone it to residential that maybe aren't being used right now. I mean, there is a ton of industrial property that is basically just kind of sitting there for sale or sitting there to be leased. I know the one behind Forest River has been sitting there forever. They park all the trailers there. And so I think if you could find places like that where they were zoned for industrial and they've been sitting on the market forever and no one's really using them, and they're not a place where you're probably going to put a factory or put a warehouse or something along those lines. I think if you could find places like that and rezone them, that could be helpful. It's just a matter of, being able to find the property, really. So.
Thank you.
Will you be willing to read agendas thoroughly prior to each meeting and attend meetings once a month?
That's tough. Reading, I would have to read the agendas. Yes, I would think that part of your basic job would be to read the agendas, be generally prepared, because you're going to have folks come to these meetings just like this one and ask. They're going to have comments. They're going to ask, especially if there's anything going on. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people show up and want to know. They're going to want to, they're either going to have complaints, they're going to have suggestions, hopefully positive feedback. But yeah, I would definitely do all the prep work. So, that's not a problem at all. So, I mean, reading comprehension is not too high these days, but I'll try.
Okay, well, that concludes our questions. Do you have questions for us?
How do you know what the turnaround time is generally on appointments to committees once you've done, gone through the sing and dance, done the interviews, or is there like a second interview? Since Commissioner Gordon is not here, did you have an idea on maybe scheduling a second one so he could be here? Or is it just make the decision, go from there?
Make a decision and go from there.
Okay.
Yes, and sometimes it takes longer if we don't feel we have enough information.
Of course.
If we do. We've gone a little longer on this one than we normally would because we haven't been able to get you scheduled. So I think ultimately we're in a place where we can make a decision and turn around fairly quickly.
I'm sorry you didn't have more applicants for this position. So I'm sorry that I was the only one. So hopefully it wasn't terrible and too much rambling, but I will say that I appreciate all of your time for making time to meet with me. So
Thank you for applying.
of course, absolutely. And I hope you find good qualified people for all your committee openings. So.
All right, you'll hear from us soon.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. All right, next up is our Polk County personnel rule revisions.
Good morning, members of the board. So today is the day that we need to just put it on the calendar, on the agenda, that we do have some rule revisions that have been reviewed by yourselves. Mr. Hanson, I'll be nice, say Mr. Smith. It's also been reviewed by our department heads and been sent out to our union presidents and members so that everybody has a chance to give any input that they might have. I received minimal input on the changes. Most of the input that I did receive was like actually thankful, happy that we're making some changes. So these changes are due to just the fact that it's been a while, trying to catch up on some changes in law, make sure that our personnel rules read. For example, we haven't updated since pay equity came in. We didn't have any terminology in there, so we made a couple of those updates. We've made some other pretty minor updates. Some of the other updates that are in there to catch up to what union contracts already call for. So that way, everybody that is a non-represented employee is being treated the same way through our personnel rules. Our goal is to, again, bring this before the board today, have a finalized adoption is on the calendar for tomorrow, I believe. And then we'll push it out to our employees and move forward from there.
You've been quite a while getting this done. so
Yes,
thank you.
it's been a project.
And I'm good with the next motion.
Go ahead.
A motion that we move forward with personnel rule revisions presented to us by Matt Hawkins that we've all had time to review.
And I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
And the team. All right, next up, Mr. Hanson, you got Mid-Willamette Valley Housing Authority member contributions discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm requesting that we table this till next Tuesday so we can have participation by all three commissioners. Commissioner Gordon, as you are aware, is not in attendance today and taking care of family matters back in Wisconsin. So he has stated to us via email that he will be back in the office on Monday and should be in attendance on Tuesday. So if we could move this one more week to discuss the dues and for this particular organization, I'd appreciate it.
I would think that, agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay. And so we will table it. Next is non-listed items. We have non-listed items.
Sir.
No.
Feel like I could add something here. All right,
Good.
hearing none, we are adjourned.